Good afternoon. Thank you again for tuning in to my Facebook presentation on the home buying process. This is the second of 10 videos that I'm producing where we discuss the home buying process. If you like a copy of an overview of the home buying process, be sure to inbox me and I'll be glad to share it with you. In this segment, we're going to cover two things and we're going to be very brief as possible. The first thing is cash. The idea of cash, obviously, when we talk about buying a house, means that for the seller, when you put an offer in, you're indicating that you're going to need to pay cash up front or that you have to go through the lending process. Since you decided to go cash, what the lender is going to be asking you for is a proof of funds letter. The proof of funds letter is obtained from the bank or the place where you have your money. It could be a credit union or what have you. Could be some other bonds or something that you hold, or anywhere that you can immediately access that cash without going through a lender, then that will constitute a cash deal. When you present a cash deal, obviously the seller is expecting that you can move forward to buy their property within 2 to 3 weeks, which is probably more than enough time to obtain the cash. But that's just one aspect. We'll discuss lending in a few minutes. Give me a few seconds, I'll be right back with you. Okay, now we're going to talk about financing. And I wrote down some notes, so forgive me if I looked down a couple of times. But here's what we're going to talk about. We've already talked about buying a house for cash. Now we're going to talk about financing. And the first question that obviously we want to talk about is how much house can you afford if you have to finance a house? It's important that you ask this question even if you're talking to your realtor. Now, obviously, your realtor can give you an insight, an overview of how much house you could afford, but you really want to talk to your lender. Now, if you haven't selected a lender, please screen for a lender and make sure that it's someone that you feel comfortable with sharing your information. But of course, the first question that brings you to a lender is how much house can you afford? For a lender, and I'm not a lender, this is just an overview, so the lender can give you a better insight. But these are some of the things that a lender is going to do with you. When you go into a lender, you're going to try to get what's called pre-approved to buy a house, which will help you determine how much house you can afford. In the pre-approval process, they're going to ask you to bring check stubs, the last 2 weeks of your check stubs. They're going to ask you to bring your income tax statement for maybe the last 2 years. They're going to ask you to bring bank statements. And these are just some of the things, and they're going to also ask you to bring money in order to do a credit check. Now, these are just 3 or 4 things that will go on. And of course, there'll be a counseling session between you and your lender in terms of understanding the home buying process as well. Now, whether you're looking to be qualified for a $50,000 or $100,000 or $500,000 house, it all depends upon what the lender can determine from your credit check. We know that there are people who can make probably $200,000 a year, but probably cannot afford any more than a $50,000 house. And of course, today a $50,000 house is not going to get you far. So there are a number of things that you need to be aware of, and I'm not going to try to go over them in this brief session. But these are the kinds of things that you need to be aware of when you go to meet with a lender. Because as realtors, we ask you not to look at houses before you met with the lender. You can meet with the realtor, but not to look at the houses. Because unfortunately, we find too many buyers fall in love with homes that may not necessarily be in their price range. Not trying to hurt feelings, not trying to make it discourage anyone, but we want to make sure that when we bring you to a house, it's based on what your lender has determined you are best qualified for. If you have any questions, please inbox me. I look forward to hearing from you, and thank you again for this opportunity.